think my experiences as an individual uh, and trying to identify role models. Who are the people out there that impressed me, or people that I want to be like, or I want to follow in their path, and whose shoulders was I standing on to get there? And didn't see a lot of opportunities for a lot of people, especially people of color, in terms of advancement. You grow up in a predominantly majority community, and schools and college, coaches, teachers of a predominant culture that didn't give a lot of looking at people like me. And so there was this really philosophical belief that we need to have change. We need to have other role models. Took me a long, long time as an individual to learn who I was and to feel proud about what I was. And I had to struggle with that growing up because I was whom people told me I was, and didn't realize that I did have a culture, I did have tradition, and certain values that were different than majority culture, but also just as important. And so starting to recognize that began to give me a sense of self-identity. And I felt there were a lot of other individuals that were my colleagues and friends that were going through the same struggles. So getting involved in athletics led me to an arena and an environment, because that's what most of us had a shared value in, that we saw athletics as a means to change who we were, what we were, a means to have the type of recognition, because we didn't get it in other places. It didn't happen in the classroom. It didn't happen in other arenas, and many other folks that were different than us were getting those types of glories. I always think about in high school, going into a high school counselor in my senior year, excited about graduating and watching my counterparts come out, who were non-minority, coming out, talking about what they're going to do. And doctors, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a physician, I'm going to college, I'm doing all these wonderful things. And I was so excited about going in, 'cause I thought this was the magic. You go in that office and the magic is given to you, and you walk out, and that's what you're going to be. And to this day, I recall going in and sitting down with the same enthusiasm that my friends walked out of the office with, waiting for that magic message for me to tell me about my future. And to this day, the counselor's voice still rings in my head by saying, have you thought about the military? What a great opportunity to get a college education, what a great opportunity to be a sergeant in the military and lead others. You know, you have such great leadership skills. And I walked out of that office probably so distraught because he took away my dream. He took away my dream, or my energy of my dream, that was going to be this wonderful thing. So I think from that moment said to me that there's got to be change. And actually today I thank him. And 10 years later I went back to that high school and I told him I thank him, because what he gave me then was the impetus to show him that I was different. I was not necessarily going to follow in a path of where he stereotyped most people that looked like me. And my friends began, and we began to create a culture that we could be different. We could take the next step, whether through our own paths we took or just supporting each other. So it really gave me the inspiration to go on to college. And it fired me up. It lit my fire. And so seeing that, I want to have a counselor someday that sat in a room that also gave dreams to people and helped them realize that their dreams are real for them and they could come to fruition if they chose to make them happen. The challenges were going to be there, the road was going to be tough, but you could do it. But give me the same inspiration that you give others that came in that environment. So I think those things all were packaged in my own mind, in my head, about how do we put people in positions and create role models to help people understand that it's real. It's not just, it's just a dream. It really is real, because you can see someone sitting there that looks like you, or hear someone speak to you, and so forth. And learn that there is a trust factor out there because you have a model and someone that you can relate to. So I think that started to contribute to my sense of changing the environment. And by changing the environment, you had to change the people who control the environment. You had to put people in positions that had a level of sensitivity and understanding that can help others bring their dreams to fruition. You had to create an avenue in which the people felt as though that there was a support system out there and that things are possible. And possibilities only realized when it's realistically sitting in front of you, or someone that's real in front of you that have gone through it, and know that their struggles were there too, but they did it. So those start contributing to a vision that, as a committee, as a chair of a committee, that I continue to share on everything that we talked about in athletics. Athletics is important because it was the how-to. How do you make a difference? How do you get there? It was a pathway. It was an avenue. And at that time, that's the only one that I knew. I didn't know any other way. Was it academically? Well, I've never been told academically I can do it. I've always been told athletically may give you a shot at doing something because I can see it on television. I can hear it in the community. And so that's the only path I knew. No one ever said, if you really study really hard and you do well on all those standardized testing, if you really good grades, you can get scholarships, you can do a lot of things. That was never ever an alternative. The only alternative for us at that time in my age bracket was sports, and it provided for us then at least some path. One saying that, I can use those skills to do something. I come from a family of 11 of us, 9 brothers and 1 sister, and at that time a single mom. And there's no way that I knew my mother was going to be able to provide educational funds for me to go on to college. And so I had to find some way that I had to do that, in some way to hopefully think about not just what I can achieve, but if I can do this, then maybe I can make life better for my mom, for my brothers, for my sister, etc. So it was about giving back to family, because so much of what my mom gave to us, my aunts, my grandmothers, and so forth gave to us. And that's why so much of me and who I am is a reflection of who she was, because she gave me that strength. She was my quarterback. She was my linebacker, and helped me to decide, what is the best play to run? What is the best offense? What is the best defense? But she also taught me never to give up, and no matter whether you're in the red zone or not in the red zone, or whether you're on the 1-yard line or not in the 1-yard line, you don't give up. You have to keep trying. You have to keep trying. And so that was something that was embedded into me, who I was as a person. So athletics for me said that here's a way that I might be able to make this happen.
To overtime at the buzzer. Unbelievable. A young man who just missed the foul shot.
When I went into taking athletics again and using it as a vehicle, I found that there was a lot that I accomplished, but I don't think it was all what I earned. A lot was given to me along the way. There was times I was able to manipulate myself through the classroom because I was an athlete. I was probably given breaks that other kids were not given because I was an athlete. And I remember being in college, and I was doing okay. I was passing, and to me, passing was okay. Somehow or another in my mind, passing is okay. If I get a C in a class, that's okay. But I get an A on the athletic field, that's what I want to achieve. So it was mixed up. There was no balance. I need to perform here, but just being okay in the classroom was okay. And I had a professor one time, and began to get very close with, and also became close with me as a person, because he looked beyond the athlete who I was. And we had to, it was a course in English, and we had to keep personal journals. And I wrote a lot about my feelings. I wrote a lot about my family. I wrote a lot what was going on in my head. And then and through my writings, we created a mentorship where he just took me on as a mentor and wanted me to come in and spend and talk with him periodically about what's going on, because he saw me struggling with this balance. And then there was one semester that I did terrible in school, just absolutely terrible. And I flunked out of college. And I tell students this today, no problem. I'm just going to walk in. I'm supposed to graduate that semester. I was going to walk into my counselor and tell him, hey, I'm an athlete. I got to get through this and get me back into school so I can graduate. Mom and everybody's all excited about coming to graduation. They knew I was going to graduate. And I walked into the counselor's office. I looked across the desk. He looked just like me. And I walked in the door. And he says, I guess I'll see you after next semester. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, you're not going to school here. I said, why? Do you know who I am? You're not going to school here. You need to get yourself academically prepared. And so that was the greatest lesson in my life that I ever learned. And I walked out of that office and I first of all hit, how could he do this to me? This has never, ever happened, because my reality had never really been tested, because everything else I was being able just to get by. And I think at that point, it turned on my light bulb about academics. I went back to a community college, got back the grades that I needed to get back in, came back in, did what I had to do, and I graduated. And from that point on, I began to look at the value that when someone said to me, and I remember coming back and said, well, you haven't taken history yet? Well, I have to take history. No one had been guiding me along the way, telling me why these things were important. And at that point, I promised myself that if God gave me the strength to get back in that environment, I will never, ever fail again. So that is what really pushed me in understanding that my life in athletics had to be balanced with that in academics if I want to eventually live my dream of working with people and helping people. And I use that as a foundation because I tell students, and I've said to student athletes and to students, period, I've gone down too, but I got back up because I took control of my life and didn't allow my life to be controlled anymore. And so I think that was the impetus that pushed me in to the academic side. And from that point on, I performed at a level of excellence, in my opinion.
How important is athletics today in this 21st century? How important is college athletics in this time?
I think college athletics today is extremely important, if not the most important. I think because of the type of attention and the visibility that it has. It's powerful. It's very, very powerful. It's an arena that brings folks together, for one. It's an arena that allows the performance and skills of women and men in a variety of situations to be a place to demonstrate that ability. It's an opportunity that communities are developed, friendships are developed, socialization skills or socializing skills are developed, families are developed. And it's interesting because the families don't all look alike, but they become family. For those hour, 2 hours, or that week of practice, everyone has a common goal. And it's not about whether you came from a low-income community, a rich community, a white family, black family, green family, Native American, Indian family. It doesn't make any difference. That you're all one. And the sound that you're hearing is the same, that you want to achieve a goal. And everyone in the stands, no matter what you look like, are rooting to help you achieve that goal if they're behind the particular team that you're on. And so, for me, it provides an opportunity for diversity to take place at its greatest moments. If I could capture that same energy and spread it over the world, we would not be having the types of relationship problems that we're having as it relates to race. We would not have the types of issues that we're having in terms of the economic conditions, in terms of the capitalism that we have in our own society, about the haves and the have-nots, because it talks about shared values, it talked about shared dreams, and it talked about creating a synergy that is united. So that's the role that athletics can play as it changes. It changes lives.
Now, how did it develop that so many gifted young people of color have managed to move through the ranks in various colleges, but the administration of those sports is still not an area that has been entered by people of color? What happened, or how did that happen?
Because I think that young men and women of color have been seen for what they can do, not what they have potential to accomplish outside of the arenas of where they performed. I take athletic fields, I take arenas that you see a level of performance that outskills any administrator in any position. But that's all that is seen. There is a blindness. There is a lack of peripheral vision of what one does outside of that arena. There is a lack of sensitivity that those skills that are mastered on the floor, that are mastered on the court, that are mastered on the track, it's the same person that has the potential to master those in the classroom. So it's about that development and mentorship. It's about that administrator. It's about that faculty member taking the same type of concern. When I played sports, what I developed was a relationship with the person that was my coach. And if my coach said to me, I want you to go to the top of that 10-foot story building, and I want you to jump, my relationship was so strong, I wouldn't even think twice, because I knew that he would be there to take care of me. And so that relationship built such a trust and a bond. Athletes today, I think, have not necessarily, outside of their arenas where those relationships are strong, have not developed the same type of relationships with those that we see as leaders in the administrative side, in the classroom side, and so forth. Because many of them think that their professors, many of them think those administrators see them in terms of what you're doing for our university through your talents. And so it's a mixed message they're receiving. And where the energy needs to change is to helping folks to understand the talent only opened the door for them to perform in other arenas. I had to get into the interview in order to compete for the position. The athlete has to once gets into the room, has to understand I got into the door. We also have an opportunity so one can understand I'm more than just what I am on the field. I'm a person, and I have the same skills in the classroom that I have out there in the field. But you have to give me the time and attention to develop them the way you develop me to run fast, the way you develop me to catch the ball, or to pass the ball, or hit the ball, or swim. You take the same energy and the same time, develop me to be a student, to be an educated person. What is an educated person? That's what I want to be.
Why are there so few minority people in athletic administration at the top jobs?
I think the same reason Athletics to me is only a reflection of society. And it's the same things of why we still have federal mandates to ensure equality. We have to change a culture. We have to change a mindset. Our struggles for the last 500 years are still the same struggles today. We're changing attitudes, we're changing mindsets. I think that you have extremely well-prepared ethnic minorities to enter into those positions, whether it's ownership positions of professional teams, whether it's top-level administrators in colleges and universities, whether it's athletic directors, presidents, and so forth. But you also have to change the culture that allows that to happen. Individuals who apply for positions don't hire themselves. They have to compete in the market like everyone else. One of the aspects of this institute, of the Leadership Institute, the NCAA, basically focuses on preparing them to do that, but also says to them, unfortunately, you have to do it twice as good as the person before you. Because one of the things that we still live in a society that breeds on stereotypes. It breeds on what they think people are, not what people really are. They breed on what they see on the television. They believe in what they read in the paper. We live in a culture that has symbolized certain groups via through their music, through their depiction in the industry, in the movie industry, and so forth. And those beliefs continue to reinforce a mindset that has not rewarded folks for success. We see a rapper doing a rapper video, and all we know, what we see about that rapper is how they're able to rap and what they're able to do to generate that level of music, demonstrate that musical talents and to move a crowd and so forth. But we don't see the rapper. We see what they do, but we don't know them as a person in terms of who they are, what they've had to do, even to get to that point. Now, whether we agree or disagree, it doesn't make any difference. But the point is that it reinforces folks. It says that's all that person can do, you know. And so our struggle is to try and change, continually changing every day, the mindset of those who make those major decisions in hiring, who makes those decisions in terms of identifying, cultivating, mentoring, and assisting one to achieve, to get to positions that would hopefully allow them then to change the culture from the inside out, not always from the outside in, because people need to be at the table where major decisions are being made. People need to be in the room where we're talking about movement and diversity and creating an environment that is diverse, because we can't escape the fact that our society is diverse and is going to be even more diverse in the future. And we need to prepare for that, continue to prepare for that. I think we have some folks that still live in their reality that life is going to stay the way it is, and that the power structure that's in current power, in terms of when I talk about power, I talk about economic and political power, is always going to be that way, you know. And I guess my belief is I'm an optimist. It's not always going to be that way. I may never live to see a person of color as president, but I hope my son or daughter will live to see a person of color or a woman be a president.
And there's that versatility of Torb.
Let's go to the practical side of the NCAA. What is the commitment of the NCAA to this vision that you have for more participation by ethnic minority males and females? Is the NCAA really engaged in this process, and where is that commitment?
I think the NCAA is engaged in that process. I think the NCAA was forced to engage in this process. Some of that comes back, obviously, as we look at the participation rate of people who participate in the NCAA, and that I mean student athletes. As we look at what we see on the field, to what we see, what the leadership is on the field, what we see in the universities and colleges as athletic directors and presidents, and the lack of equality there in terms of diversity. And so at one point, NCAA had, as an association, and I want to clarify, because when I say the NCAA, is that it needs to be understood that I'm talking about every member institution of the NCAA. Because the NCAA here is only an operational part of the house. It represents all of its members in terms of operationalizing policy, enforcing policy, and moving the association as its membership basically has guided it to do. And so its movement then clearly, I think, came to fruition that as we see the diversity occurring in our various college campuses and universities, and it kind of started with a study done probably, I want to say around about 84, 82, that talked about the student experience, and it also focused in on the African American student experiences on college campuses and universities, that there started being greater attention given to diversity on campuses and what occurs for students of color, and trying to help people understand that there are some differences, significant differences in terms of recruitment, where people come from, preparation, our lack of preparation in high schools and junior highs, as I mentioned earlier in my own life, in terms of what I was told I was going to be versus what I had the potential to be. And so I think those things brought pressure on the association, but on the university campuses, that something had to occur.
How did they decide to resolve this, and what was your role in that?
It occurred in Point Clear, Alabama. I remember the day. It was a meeting taking place in Alabama of the NCAA Council. And we just had earlier, we had a gentleman that had been, first of all, was one of the first African American presidents of the NCAA,